Welcome to the White Knuckling It podcast with Justin Burt
No, we got out of the life with the pre-roll.
and Mitchell O'Brien.
It was in his butt.
They share their experiences from white knuckling sobriety to becoming successful and living life in recovery.
Yeah, boy.
Welcome back to the White Knuckling It podcast. I'm Justin Burt.
No, I'm Mitchell O'Brien.
What's up, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing good. I have a question for you.
What's that?
I had an interesting. Have you ever used a shower? I'll start with that. Have you ever used a shower?
I think everyone's used a shower.
Well,
Mitch.
sometimes you get around people that haven't. You don't give me those vibes, but you get around people and you're like, dude, you could learn how to use a shower. But anyway, and you know what I'm talking about. I used a shower this weekend. Weekend? It's the middle of the week.
Yeah,
Holy cow.
it's like Thursday, bro.
So I used the shower the other day, and I stepped into it, and I'm not super tall, but I'm not short. I'm like 5'10" and 3/4.
Okay, you're on the tall spectrum,
Is that tall spectrum?
on the bottom end, because
Yeah.
average is like 5'6" to 5'8".
I used to be almost 6 foot, and then I got really fat, and gravity pulled me down.
That could happen.
That's what my doctor said. People laugh at me when I say that. My doctor's like, no, gravity's a real thing.
Yeah.
So, I step in there, and the shower head is like nose level to me.
Where are you at? Where you were at a shower head that's nose level?
So it was like a hobbit house, I think. You know, hobbits?
Yeah.
They're little short people.
Yeah.
So they live in houses and everything's smaller.
Yeah, my shower's kind of like that at home, and I have to bend over to rinse off my head. But if I raise up my arm, it's like perfect armpit level to like rinse out the armpits after you're
Yeah.
done washing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one had like a removable head thing, so I could and you know I could bend down a little bit, and it was huge. The head of it was like foot across almost.
Holy cow!
Yeah, it was
those
like-
are good ones.
It was. I appreciated the water pressure, but I got in and immediately laughed. And the other person that was in the house was like, "What the fuck is he laughing at?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm taller than your shower head." So, yeah, it was interesting. So, I used a hobbit shower,
That's nice.
and I didn't know you had one at your house.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So you understand.
yeah, I do. I hate I don't understand why they can't run the pipe up an extra foot.
That's the way it is at my house.
Come out above your head, reach your arm up to adjust it. Not at head level where you're adjusting it. Like,
And so my thought is that the people who made this house didn't know, because it's not a brand new home, didn't know that in like 20 years a short person was going to be living here. Because the residents of the home, it works for them. But for a person of what I consider average height, I guess it's on the short side of the tall spectrum, it just wasn't working. So it was interesting experience. So, but enough of my shower talk.
yeah, well, at least we know you have good hygiene practice.
Yeah. Even if I'm not in my own home, I do still clean myself.
Right.
Yep. Even if there are obstacles in the way, like a shower that's up
A
to my
foot lower.
up to my
foot
waist.
lower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Waist level shower heads.
Yeah, that's a little person must live there.
They do. A couple of them.
Well, you actually know some little people?
Yeah. Well, some of them are children.
Oh.
So they're all kind of little for a while.
I was going to say, most little people can kick themselves in the forehead, right?
So I don't know that kind of little people.
Oh,
Yeah. I don't even know if I've ever met
a little person?
in real life. Yeah. So
Oh, dude, they're so awesome. Just their whole outlook on life, because they know that they don't have a long lifespan, and their whole outlook on life is mind-blowing. Like, they don't let that deter their life at all.
Is it because they're always looking up? They don't look down on anyone?
I don't know, man. But I did know one. My brother was good friends with one. I was in high school. He was in middle school. And the little guy was awesome, dude.
Just a little guy.
You know, everyone enjoyed being around him. He didn't take no shit. He kind of reminds you of I want to say his name's Brad Williams.
Yeah, the comedian.
Yeah, the comedian.
Yeah,
He kind of reminds you of him.
Yep.
You know, just funny, you know, just no matter what was happening, he would make somebody laugh.
Yeah, and I feel like you don't want to make too much fun of them in person because they're right in like their 1-2 punch.
Yeah,
another dude would put you in the nose. It's your dick, man.
Yeah, they'll definitely hit the speed bag for sure. But you know, he was just cool to be around, dude. And we used to drink and whatnot. He'd get all messed up. He'd be like, "Anyone want to see me kick myself in the head?" And we're like, "Sure." And one time he was wearing steel-toe boots, dude. He about knocked himself out.
That's terrible.
It was terrible, but you know, it was funny. He was the life of the party.
It reminds me of like Wee Man.
Yeah. You know, and that's who his like idol was. I think as his little person idol was like Wee Man.
Little person idol.
Because he was almost exactly like Wee Man. He didn't turn down a challenge. He just did it and had fun with life, man. And I wish I could have had the outlook back then.
I'm glad you reeled it in a little bit. We were going off the rails there a little bit. So,
but yeah,
you brought something to my attention. It's something I've heard before, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm gonna play it.
All right,
just give me just a minute here.
Well, here, just a second. So Justin found a video and has a very awesome analogy in it. So we're gonna share it with people because nobody here where we work is great at sharing analogies. None of us do it very well.
No,
we're just gonna play the video. So here you go.
All right.
Know the difference? You guys know the difference between cows and buffaloes? Well, you can tell the difference between a cow and a buffalo based upon how it responds to a storm. When a storm comes in, you can see it coming. What cows will do is they'll turn away from it and they'll run, and they'll all run. And eventually what will happen is the storm will catch up to them. And you know what they do? They keep running. And so what happens? They're running this way and the storm is moving over the top of them, and they're running with the storm, prolonging the amount of time that they spend weathering that storm. And ultimately what happens is those cows, they'll give up, they'll run out of fuel, they'll gas out, and they'll just lay down and suffer inside of that storm. Do you know what buffaloes do? When they see a storm, instead of running away from it, they turn and they face it and they start running towards it. And then when they hit that storm, they don't stop. They keep running. They run through it, and eventually they make it out on the other end. Who do you think spent more time in the storm? The cows or the buffaloes? The cows. A lot of you guys are carrying around some trauma. You've lost the ability to forgive yourself. You don't feel like you deserve the life that you want. You've lost your way. You're not the man that you know you should be. And you have the devil in the back of your mind telling you that you're not worth it, that you don't deserve it, that you're not good enough. The best way to beat the devil is to give that motherfucker a front row seat.
I have a question for you.
What's up?
What did the buffalo say when his kid left for college?
I don't know.
Bye, son.
That's so funny. That's really funny.
So that's actually an analogy that I use when I run meetings and groups and stuff, because it really does. And I like how he expounded on the, you know, having the devil in your head, and you know, it's really intrusive thoughts and stuff like that will come in and bother you, and you have trauma and stuff like that. But I talk about when struggles come up, like during a life of sobriety, is what I talk about usually. And it's like, if you push it off and you run from it and you don't deal with it, you're being a cow running from the storm. It's going to take longer. You're going to get exhausted, because that's the explanation I heard is cows will run and run and run and run and run and run and run until they can't anymore and they're exhausted. And then they have to endure the entirety of the full storm still, and some die from it.
Yeah.
And that's like a real world thing that happens. But then the buffalo, they don't just not run from it, they run headstrong into it, because they know that the further into the storm that they get, it's going to pass. And if they can run into it, they're going to have the storm for less amount of time.
Right.
And then they can rest.
Yep.
And that's an amazing analogy for how to deal with sober people problems. You know,
Yeah.
don't let it add up. And I'm not great at this yet. I'm trying. I'm working on it in my life. There's still stuff that I have to deal with in my life that is difficult and stuff like that. But I love the analogy. It's so true and relatable.
My analogy is kind of closely the same. You know, I always tell people when you enter recovery, there's two roads. You have an easy road and you have a hard road. And the hard road's really bumpy, really rough in the beginning because you have to unpack all this trauma, go through all these emotions, ride the emotional roller coaster. So you have lots of ups and downs, kind of like on a bumpy road. You know, you're just bouncing all over in your seat. It's kind of like what entering recovery is like at first, you know. And then that road smooths out, and it's pretty easy sailing after you get through the rough patch in the beginning. But then you have the easy road, the road where you don't want to unpack anything, and you're just kind of going through the motions of being in recovery, but you're not doing anything to actually sustain a lifetime of recovery, you know. So the road's real smooth, and then all of a sudden one day you hit a fucking pothole and it just bounces you, and then you hit another one, it bounces you, and then you start hitting a bunch of them, you know, and you just start getting tossed around back in this cyclone of addiction.
Yeah, you get thrown off the road, and the latter part of your explanation is what we call white knuckling it.
Yep.
You know, we're just basically in my perspective, we're just trying not to drink anymore. We're just trying not to pick up the needle. We're just trying not to pick up the pipe, and that's it. But we got all this other stuff, and so you can only hold on for so long. I use the analogy in a group on Monday and said, you know, I can pick up a 20-pound weight. I can pick it up and I can lift it and do it a whole bunch of times and put it over here and throw it into the other hand and stuff like that. But if you tell me to pick up a 20-pound weight and hold it for an hour, that's going to suck. I'm not going to be able to do that, you know?
Right.
It's going to get too big. It's going to take too much. My strength is going to wane, and then I'm going to drop it. So what you really have to do is deal with it, you know? And in that analogy, it was like you pick up your weight, you find a place to put it. You know, you use it, you get it done, you do your workout. Maybe your weight's in the way. I was trying to paint a picture of like actually having like a dumbbell in the middle of your room, you know? Pick it up, find a place to put it. Don't just pick it up and hold it. When you have a problem and you don't do anything about it, you're just picking up that weight and it's just there. And now you're at that point, it's the countdown for when is your strength going to wear out.
Right.
You know?
And 20-pound weight, you're only going to look maybe last 2 minutes. and people think, oh, I can last longer than that. But in reality, put just two thin books in your hands and hold them out like this. You cannot last 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's called like the 5-minute challenge or something like that. Remember that way back in the day?
I did it at summer camp, and I can't remember. It was either books or like little tiny dumbbells, like 1 or 5 pounds, something like that. And we had this thing where we had to go, and it was kind of like a scavenger hunt, but it's like you went to a different part of the camp and had to do a challenge, and you went to a different part and had to do a challenge and stuff like that. And then one of them was, you had to put your arms out and hold these things for a certain amount of time. Mm-hmm. And even like the biggest dudes eventually, and there wasn't something that heavy, but their arms were buckling and they were getting closer and closer in on them. And you weren't allowed to do that. Like you had to pass the challenge, you had to keep your arms straight.
Right.
And it's a great analogy. It works right along with the cow and the buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, so for me, like even going through trying to clean up my credit report, something I've been working on digitally for a while. And I keep dodging this phone call about an old cell phone bill from when I got divorced last year, right? Mm-hmm. And I was paying on it for a while, but I had all these devices. I just didn't want to give it up. because I owed so much in device payments, you know, and I'm like, shit, like, I'm never going to get out from underneath this, you know, and someone told me, well, just don't worry about it. It'll go off your credit report in 7 years. Well, they called me,
Nope.
and I think they kind of did a little intimidation thing, but, you know, at the end of the day, I'm just happy to have worked out a payment arrangement so that way I can get it taken care of.
Yeah.
And it won't be on there no more because things, and it's like a $2,000 cell phone bill because devices ain't cheap. You know, I don't care how you look at it.
No, it's true.
You know, I got the 13 when it first came out. A couple SEs, a couple watches. You know, all that stuff adds up.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, and I felt so heavy about it. Not really overwhelmed, but like it just weighed on me, you know, like how did I do this? Why would I do this to myself and just keep it going? And I'm just glad I'm able to get through some of this stuff.
Well, like when I mentioned earlier, I'm glad you were transparent because it gives me courage. When I mentioned earlier that I'm not great at it yet, I'm still dealing with stuff like that. And then we have, when it's not just the stuff from the past anymore, like I'm still fighting an insurance company to pay for an accident that happened with my son on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. That's
going to collections now. My insurance should have just paid that. It's like, what the heck, you know? So,
well, technically it happened on private property. It was an ATV.
we're not even getting into that.
I know, but
I have
that's
insurance for a reason. Pay for my stuff, like
Right.
You know, that's where I'm getting at here. And now I got to deal with it being in collections. Like, that's a big bill.
I bet.
That's like some of the bigger ones that you've shared with me about size, and it's like, are you kidding me? You know. So, it's just like, but it's something we got to deal with because it's going to screw my credit more than it is right now. Like I've been doing a lot of work like you have, trying to get my credit look better.
Yeah.
And now this is on here, and it's like, I don't want to deal with that. I would much rather just not answer those phone calls, like you said. You know, that helps me in the moment.
Yeah.
You know, because gives me anxiety that I have to deal with this big bill. But in the long run, it's going to screw me over so much more.
Yep.
And I'm just being a cow with a storm on my ass. You know.
Yep. Sure is.
So,
you know, it's just we just have to do things that we don't want to do. The uncomfortable will make us comfortable later in life.
yeah, there's another, I don't know if it's a full analogy, but it's a saying, and it says, do the uncomfortable thing now for an easy later. Do the easy thing now for uncomfortable later.
Yep.
And typically that's not the end of it. Like if you do the uncomfortable now, it's not as uncomfortable as the uncomfortable later will become because it grows. You know, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, we're talking about financial stuff. Interest drops on there, you know.
Yeah.
Your credit gets worse and worse and worse. So it's not the same uncomfortable later as it is right now. It's bigger and worse.
And you know, the worst part about it is, though, too, 10 years ago, they weren't really doing garnishments like they are now.
Right.
Like, they'll take you to court and have a judge sign a garnishment for failure to pay. And that's what the phone company's credit bureau did to me, you know, the creditor. They're like, well, we'll just take you to court. We've been trying to get in contact with you for a year. And I've already dealt with that from the IRS.
Yeah.
And had to pay out a bunch of money. And I need to probably call that lawyer today. I haven't heard from him in a while. So just check in. I know everything's going good, but just check in and see how things are going.
Well, no, it's being proactive. You're being the buffalo, you know?
Yep. Because there I owe them a bunch of money. And then I owe a bunch of money for an old car that they did take me to court and won a garnishment for like my state taxes and stuff. So I'll never see state taxes. I think I owe them like 14 grand.
Yeah.
For an old Chevy Cruze back in 2017.
Cruise, yeah.
I remember when I thought that car was awesome.
They are kind of cool.
It was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Chevy Cruze RS.
Baby mama drives one. RS.
Yeah, it was an RS.
Nice.
So I mean, it had nice power. It just got up and went, and me and that girlfriend split up. We were together for quite a few years before we actually made that purchase together, and
Yeah.
to actually have a reliable car for us to get back and forth to work and be able to go do things, and we split up for unknown. I mean, it's known reasons, but I'm gonna say unknown reasons.
Yeah. Unbeknownst to the crowd.
Yeah. And and we just let the car go back. And back then I was like, whatever. Credit don't mean nothing.
Yeah.
And now that I've gotten into recovery, I'm like, I used to have this idea where I probably didn't ever want to own a house. But then here recently it's like, man, I'd like to at least own something.
Yeah.
Even if it was a condo where I didn't have to do no outside work. Because that's my biggest thing about owning a house. I don't want to have to go to work, get out, take care of the yard, shovel snow, none of that stuff. So a condo sounds really good.
I want a little slice of land. Like, big would be sweet, but I'm trying to be realistic. A little slice of land and a barn dominium. Kind of like my grandpa had. I know I've kind of explained it to a couple people, but it was this big building, and 2/3 of it was like pole barn, and 1/3 of it was house, 2-story house.
Okay.
And you just looked at it, and it just looked like this big, giant pole barn. But you walked inside, and then a whole bunch of it was garage, and then the other side it was all drywalled up, and then you went inside, and it was like log cabin on the inside.
Really?
That'd be perfect. I'd love it. Workshop outside. I'm gonna be starting projects soon. You're gonna be hearing from old Mitchell in the craft world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. I'll be sharing in other podcasts sometime soon. I've been conniving and planning in my brain. But I think we covered that pretty good. Do you know another reason I relate to buffalo?
Why?
Because they're big, they're strong, they're not very fast, and they're a little horny.
Wow.
Yes, they have horns.
They do have horns.
Yeah. I just relate to that.
But you don't have horns.
But I'm a little horny.
Oh. I was going to say so many things right there. So many.
I love how I make myself laugh. I really do.
But I'm going to try to keep it at least PG-13. And nothing that went through my head was PG-13 qualified.
I know.
It was definitely rated R. We're almost like double R to triple X.
When we talk about that line and going just past it.
Yeah. That's everything that came to my mind. It was great.
Oh. So, yeah, man.
But so how's your past week been, really?
It's been all right. I got a chance to help somebody yesterday, and it was really rewarding. I wrote my blog on a Wednesday. Dude,
I seen that.
like, that was a relief. Something that is just off my plate. I don't have to do, later in the week.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy writing blogs, but sometimes we get so busy that Friday comes and I haven't done it. And it's like, all right, now what am I going to fit this in? And it takes away from the creative process. I like the creative process of writing blogs. So to be able to focus on it on a day where if things went a little bit slower, and I could just kind of do it at my own leisure with not worrying about it. And it was like right in the middle of the week. That was nice.
Yeah.
I liked it. So how's stuff going with your newest adventure?
Things are going good. I went out on a date last Friday.
Oh,
That was nice. Went and seen my son for his birthday
right.
the following day. Stopped seeing my dad on the way back up. Stayed at his house Saturday night. We hung out, I don't know, till like 4 o'clock in the morning on Saturday.
Nice.
Fell asleep. He comes out to the living room, starts yelling and screaming like, wake your fucking ass up. It's 10 o'clock. My dad's got this rule that no one sleeps in his house past 10 o'clock.
Oh.
Otherwise, you just sleep the day away. Like everyone's gonna get up, get dressed. At least by 10:30, you gotta be up and dressed in his house. Just the way he's always been, ever since I've ever known him. And it's kind of nice because even if you do stay up a little late, 10 o'clock still a decent time to wake up because you don't feel like you slept the day away.
Yeah.
And it used to be rough when I worked third shift and we'd get out of work and he'd let me sleep until about 11 and then get up, be productive during the day. And then he's like, well, then you can take another nap. So I never really got a full 8 hours of sleep.
Right.
It'd be like a 4-hour block and a 4-hour block. So really you get like 3 hours of sleep and 3 hours of sleep.
Bro, there's something with that generation about sleep.
Yeah.
Where you got to sleep when they want you to sleep. Otherwise, they're mad. Mm-hmm. My parents are the same way. Like, I think that if people are self-aware, and like I understand where some of it comes from, because back when I was using, like I would just try and drink myself to sleep as often as I could, and I would waste the days away. But I'm pretty self-aware and proactive about trying to get the right amount of rest. If I'm doing something until 2-4 o'clock in the morning and I want to get 8 hours of sleep, I feel like I should be able to do that without shame,
Right.
And it's like it's not a thing for that generation.
No.
They gotta come in and put a kibosh on it.
No.
You're wasting the day away. I was like, well, I used a lot more of yesterday than you did, so like get off my back.
To them, it don't matter.
No, and I think that's the important part of like having your own space. You make your own rules and all that.
Yep.
Because I know somebody's going to hear this and be like, well, don't be around your parents. It's like, I understand that. But it's something about that generation. I just don't like it.
And I don't mind it, though, because, like I got up, I still was able to hang out with him for another 6 hours before I left his house, and I don't get to see my dad that much. He lives downstate, down by Muskegon, and it's kind of a decent little drive, but at the same time, it's nice to be able to see him once in a while.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's wrap this up real quick.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody make sure that you go to whiteknucklinit.com. You can hit us right on the RSS feed.
And if you need any resources for sobriety, recovery, anything along those lines, make sure you check out 217recovery.com.
217 Recovery.
Yep.
There's resources. There's the blogs that we were talking about. There's other podcasts. If you're in northern Michigan, there's resources for recovery and other things and events that we do every month.
Yep.
So do that, and we'll catch you next time.
Later.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the White Knuckling It podcast. For more details on the show and for more episodes, log on to whiteknucklingit.com.
So, well, hello, Miss Smoker. How are you doing?
I want to touch that. Oh, it's a toy. You get this from your adventure? Nice.
Hey, what's up?
Big hairy thing.
Big hairy thing?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's wrap this up real quick.
Yes.